Welcome to Weekly Wisdom. I'd like to dedicate today's portion to Leah Bat Ora. May she have a refuah shalema, a speedy recovery. Our first introduction to Moses in adulthood, is when he meets up with an Egyptian slave master who's brutally beating a Jew. And Moshe rises to the occasion, being just and righteous. He realizes that this is incorrect. And so he saves the Jew, but is forced to murder the Egyptian. This forces Moshe to have to flee from Egypt. And some 60 years later, we're then introduced to Moshe being communicated to by God himself. As he approaches a sneh, a thorn bush, that is on fire, but not being consumed, God communicates and tells him, Al admas kedeshu, you are on sacred land. Shal no lecha mi'araglecha, take your shoes off. There are many explanations to what is really happening here. But this land is holy. And when land is holy, you don't need protection. You don't need shoes. But when the land is not holy, then you need something that separates you from the coarseness of this world, that protects your principles and protects your values and separates you from the rest. But when something is holy, when God is imbuing your life and imbuing your world, there's no need for a separation, there's no need for protection. God was possibly also sending Moshe another message. That I know that when we were introduced to you, some 60 years before, when you protected the poor slave, the Jew, you certainly displayed what it takes to be a leader, what it takes to be someone who stands up to others. But do you still have what it takes? Shal no lecha, take your shoes off. I want you to feel the very granules of the sand, the pebbles underneath your feet. I want you to recognize that each little granule is special as it penetrates your foot. We all know that feeling as we're walking or jogging and all of a sudden there's a pebble in our sneaker. How it feels far larger than it is. And that's what a true leader is. When everything is magnified. When the need of someone we know is far larger. And therefore we take it far more seriously. And we appreciate the need. So God says, yes, feel those granules underneath your feet. Later on, when Moshe refuses the mission that God wants to give him, he at the end says, listen, God, they're not going to believe me. They don't have what it takes, the Jewish nation. And once again, God provides two signs. A stick switches into a snake, and he asks him to put his hand into his cloth, into his shirt, and when he takes it out, it becomes full of leprosy. He puts it back in and it disappears. Those two signs are what? Signs of someone who speaks ill in the Torah. The snake was the first creature in the 6 days of creation that spoke ill, and therefore got Chava and Adam to sin. And the second is the famous reaction or ramification of speaking Lashon Hara, speaking evil about people, that you're stricken with this spiritual malady called leprosy, or looks like leprosy. Because God was telling Moshe, here you were, perfect for the job, but have you become insensitive? Do you believe the people that you're about to redeem don't have what it takes? Then you're not the leader anymore. So for 1 week long, God wants to make sure that Moshe appreciates every single person and believes in them. You know, we're in a very unusual time. And there's so much around us that can influence us. I want to share with you one last story of a famous Hasidic master by the name of Rab Meir Premishlan, that every week he would trek up this icy mountain during the winter months. And while many would slip and slide, somehow he was able, unhindered, to make it to the top. And they asked him, Reb Meir, how is it that you succeed where everybody else fails? He says, if you're connected above, you will not fall below. We need to feel connected to something greater than ourselves so that what we don't fall prey to all the negativity around us. And like Moshe, appreciate that everyone is important, everyone has needs, and to be sensitive to them, and to always stand up for our values and principles. Have a great Shabbos.